Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 18. My name is Jay Oza, and I'm the host of this show. And today we have Aruna Lakshmikantham from India, Julie Finkelstein from Connecticut, United States. And the purpose of this show, as I always tell people in the beginning, is we try to accomplish four things. One is to learn. We're all trying to become better public speakers. Second is to teach. Some of us have been doing this for quite some time. As you can see, this is episode 18, so we've done already 17 episodes. And not that we're experts, but we do have interest in public speaking, so we may be able to teach people things that we come across as we go through, giving speeches, either private or in a larger setting. The third thing we do is we share speeches. So if you have a speech that you want to get other people to review, get a review of your speech, we share it and get feedback from others, which I think is extremely important, not only in receiving feedback but also giving feedback. And the fourth thing is support. This is a support group. We tend to support each other. The stakes are non-existent here. There are no stakes. It's a low stakes, no stakes. But what I try to encourage people is to raise the stakes, so that if you can raise the stakes here, and when you do have to give a speech where the stakes are high, you will be confident and natural. So you won't be nervous like, oh my God, I'm giving a speech in front of, if you start adding more zeros at the end, you're not going to get nervous. So that is what we try to do. Today's theme is speaking about technical topics, and I picked three videos from YouTube that I thought were pretty good. They're all a little different, but they all are explaining a technical topic. The first segment will look at Julia Galef's description of Bayes' theorem, which is a pretty technical talk, and I think she does a pretty good job with that. Then the second one is a TED Talk that I picked up. This is Kenneth Cukier talking about big data. And big data is a buzzword that we hear all the time, and we'll review that and discuss it, what he does well, what we can take away. And the third speech is, of course, one of the best speakers around, Neil DeGrasse Tyson. And I just used a clip of this about him explaining gravity, and he does so many things well here. And the reason I put that at the end is because I consider that particular clip as like the gold standard on how do you can't do it any better than the way he does it. So that's the theme for today. And at this point, I would like Aruna to introduce her, give a quick introduction, and then we'll do a 3-minute speech after the introduction part is over. So Aruna, you want to give a quick introduction, and then Julie, you can go next, and then we'll start the 3-minute talk part. Okay? Go ahead, Aruna.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Jay. It's good to be a part of Talk Live. I'm very happy. And as I already introduced myself, I'm from India. I've been in the IT industry for the last 10 years, various roles. And for the last 2 years, I've been freelancing. I freelance my skills in writing, designing, graphic design, and mostly for NGOs. That's what I'm doing right now. I freelance article writing as well. As you can see, I'm not really that comfortable in addressing an audience when it comes to speaking. I hope to be better, and that's why I'm here. That brings me here.
Okay, great. You did well. Thanks a lot. Somian is back. Julie, you want to go next?
Do you want to catch Somian since he's on technology? He might be come and go, or do you want me to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, Julie Finkelstein, a nice Chinese woman from living in Stanford, from Hong Kong via Canada and Chicago. I'm a fellow student and a fellow mentor. I'm a devotee to Jay's Speech Talk Live program. And today I'm going to, I started my speech talk live, persuasive speech. I'm near the end of the journey, and I got some very generous feedback. So today my speech will be about that. Thank you. About how I'm processing the feedback. I'm actually going to process the feedback here. Thank you.
All right, Julie, thanks a lot. Somyan?
This is the introduction. Is this supposed to be introduction? Okay.
I'm Somyan. This is like a quick intro.
Yeah, I'm from Bangalore, and I'm one of the mentors in this Introduction to Public Speaking course. I keep joining the weekly hangout whenever my electricity board permits me. Okay, so I'm very active participant. Otherwise, this particular hangout. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. So one thing, Arun, I forgot to tell you is that we are mentors, myself, Julie, and Somyan, for the Introduction to Public Speaking. I believe there are close to 6 mentors, but we seem to be the most active ones as far as I can tell. I don't see that much activity from other mentors, unless you guys have seen activity, because this show would be the one where you would come on if you were a mentor. So at this point, we're going to do our 3-minute talk on any topic you want. And it doesn't have to be 3 minutes. It could be 1 minute, but this is just so that we all get a chance to talk about something, kind of get it out off our chest. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about something that I was giving thought to, that if you come across somebody who's technical and they ask you, okay, why should I learn public speaking? And you know how technical people are. We always have these words like portability, compatibility, scalability, and all that, right? So I said, okay, the first thing I would tell them is that the reason your speech has to be portable. Now, what do I mean by that? Portable, the way I understand it from a speech, using the for speaking, is that you should be able to give your speech to anyone, anytime, anywhere. It should be portable. The second one is scalable. What does that mean? By scalability, I mean if I'm talking to Julie, let's say one-on-one, then I can just keep adding zeros and the speech shouldn't sound any different. It should scale from 1 person all the way up to 100, because I've never given a speech with more than 100 people, so I'll stop at 2 zeros. Hopefully I'll add 1 more later on. The third one is compatible. Now, what do I mean by that? By that I mean that it has to really be compatible with the audience that you're talking to. And you have to give some thought to it. Is your speech compatible? If it's not, then it's not going to resonate. And then the last one I came across is deliverable. There has to be some kind of a deliverable that the audience can take away at the end of your speech. And so this was a one way to explain to somebody who doesn't see the value. And a lot of people in the technical field don't really see sometimes the value of why your speech has to be good. And if you want to make them understand it, you have to kind of use their language. So this was kind of my attempt. I was hoping to come up with 1 more, but I couldn't, so I only came up with 4. Portable, scalable, compatible, and deliverable. So that's my little 3-minute talk. Julie, you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. So I'm on my last leg of this class. Hope to repeat it again. But I did a speech talk. I did a persuasive speech on how, by actively engaging in this class, can help you to be more successful in life. And I'm just going to focus on some key. I finished it. I was very happy with it, and I submitted it to be presented at Speech Talk Live. And I got lots of feedback. So the first thing was jarring because I want to underscore what Jay always says, public speaking or even speaking well is difficult, because this one I actually worked on it over 10 iterations at least. I draft and redraft between my verbal orals about at least 6 times, 6 versions, which is probably more like 20 times. And then I did 3 oral practices on the phone. And then I did 3 YouTube practices, and then when I sent it out, I thought it was pretty good, honestly. And then so it was a bit shocking to get the feedback I got, but that is why I practice. I don't practice with people. That is why I practice with people, because I don't practice people to get the information I expect. I practice to get in the information I don't expect. So first of all, I want to thank Jay and Somian from the bottom of my heart for your feedback, because I don't think I could have gotten to this next step without your support. The 3 things I'm going to try to finish quickly, so maybe when you speak, you can give me some feedback, or whenever, somewhere down the line. I highlight 3 things. One is emotional appeal. I got feedback that there was a lack of emotional appeal, and I can see that, and that's surprising because I'm a pretty emotional person. And 2 is suggestion of something like a sound bite. So that I would be considered maybe a deliverable they can take away. The message need to be more crisp. And finally, the idea of the blame model. I don't really want to use the blame model, but I think a similar structure can be used using the opportunity model, in that nothing's wrong, but things could be much better. So I'm going to leave my speech here, that asking for, maybe since we're talking, you can have some additional insights to share. So I'll leave my time for that. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment, and I'll then let Somian give a comment, and then he can go into his 3-minute talk. I think one thing I noticed, Julie, is that you need an audience.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, without an audience, I think you become too conscious when you're speaking. You're not getting the feedback, and you're just are not sure how to proceed in a way. And it's hard. I know it's something you're working on, but like, I don't see any problems when you're speaking on the show, but when you're giving a speech, I'm not seeing your personality coming through. So one thing I had suggested is that just keep asking questions, like you are. I use this word called what was it called? It's a Oh yeah, right. It's a choreographed conversation is what you're having when you're giving a speech. Like, when people are dancing, there's a choreography. If you didn't choreograph, you partner and you would bump into each other. And when you're giving a speech, it's sort of like that. You're having this choreography with your audience. Obviously, your audience is not going to be there when you're practicing, so you kind of have to pretend that there is an audience there. So anyway, I think that is the thing that you have to work on. How do you do it when there is no audience? I don't think you would have that problem when there is an audience that you're doing in front of. Somian, do you have any comments on it? And then you can move to your 3-minute speech.
No comments, Jay. And by the way, what is this 3-minute thing? I think I missed the initial.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This 3-minute is just, we decided to do it in the beginning so that if you wanted to just use that time, it's your time. You can use up to 3 minutes and take a particular topic you want to talk about. Could be anything. It's your topic. So you just use it. Okay. It's not like we're going to comment on it, or unless you ask us to. So pick any topic and just use your 3 minutes to get your point across. The objective of this is that after 3 minutes, it should be such that we want to know more. That's it.
Okay. Fine. Since I'm not prepared for that kind of thing, I will just anyway say whatever comes to my top of my mind. Okay. So the key points that I'm looking forward to in terms of acquiring competency in my own public speaking related effort is fluency and some kind of making it interesting. See, of the 3 videos that you shared, the one where this Neil DeGrasse Tyson, he asked at the end of the speech, that segment, he asked, do you want me to give you long answers for a few questions, or do you want a short answers for more questions? Everybody says, I want a long answer for fewer questions. That means he made it more interesting. Okay, so I think that's the kind of feeling I would like my audience to get. I would like to, want them to come and listen to me. That's one kind of thing. And then in my own ability to convey, I think fluency is the thing that I lack. I have a lot of stuttering and things like that happen when I speak. That's something I've noticed. So these are the two aspects on which I am trying to improve personally. That's my sharing.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, you don't have to use up all 3 minutes, so that's good. Yeah, glad. Yeah, that's the whole point of this 3 minute is to get your point across and then see if people would want to know more. And that's why I started this 3 minute thing, because a lot of times we don't have a lot of time to talk unless you have the forum like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you better be very interesting. Okay, Aruna, you have 3 minutes. Use as many minutes as you want. Use up to 3, or even you can make it 30 seconds, 1 minute. So you're on the clock now.
Thank you. I want to. Okay, let me just. I'm a little. Could I take a breath? It's like what it's like the example that Professor McGatty showed in one of his during one of his sessions. The guy in the council, he is trying to present a speech on why something should be banned, and he says, oh, he's got so many points to say, and then he says, I need to catch my breath. It's something like that right now. When I converse with people, I'm usually comfortable, but when it comes to an audience, I tend to stutter and stammer and my thoughts get blocked. So that's something that I want to overcome with this course. And how to translate my thoughts into concise, crisp, and something that I can connect, something with which I can connect to the audience. That's another point on which I want to improve through this course. And like you said, I agree that it always helps when you have an audience. I find it very awkward to practice on my own in front of the camera, but otherwise, I think in front of an audience, practice makes one perfect, definitely. And that's the third thing that I want to improve through this course. So my 3 key points for improvement through this course is what my speech was about today. I don't know how long it took, but that's it. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, that was very good.
Thanks,
Yeah, it looks like you've done that before. I think, guys, we have competition now. We're going to have to up our game, like guy Scott Cook said, We got to invite guests that are not that good. Otherwise,
Come.
we're going to have to start practicing more. I just made mine up just a few minutes ago. I thought, okay, I got like 5 of them. I said, let me pick the one. Since this was on Technical Talk, I came up with it. And I don't even know if it worked, about portability, scalability. I think it's a little too, some techies may hit me if I say that. But anyway, so that was good, Aruna. See, that's the whole point. The whole point of the show is that this is like, this is like a support group. And, we're not professionals here. I think nobody, in my opinion, is a professional speaker, because every audience is different, and most of the time you don't know whether your speech is going to resonate. A speech that may work here may not work somewhere else. So when people say I'm a professional speaker, all they're saying is that they've given more speeches. It doesn't mean that their speech is going to work. So it's always, the audience is going to be different. Every situation, it's like playing a golf course. Every golf course is different, right? There's no same golf course like you have a basketball court. A basketball court is same everywhere, but not a golf course. Golf courses have all kinds of traps and bunkers and pond and all that. And you got to know it. You got to know how to play that, and you got to adjust it. It takes a while. So you did a great job. I mean, that's how you get started. So I think now you're set to come on the show, and you've got your intro done. Okay, so I think at this point we'll take a brief pause, and we'll begin our first segment, the the Julia Galef's talk on Bayes rule, Bayes theorem. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 18, segment number 1. In this particular segment, we're going to look at a speech that was given by Julia Galef. Julia Galef is quite well known. She has her own podcast called Rationally Speaking. She's the founder of some organization like that teaches people about using rational thought. And also she gives a lot of speeches. So we're looking at a speaker here who is given lots of speeches. She's very comfortable in giving speeches. In this one, she's not really speaking to an audience. She's speaking to a camera, but she's explaining a complex topic called Bayes' theorem. Now, Bayes' theorem is an old theorem, but it's widely used today to look at the relationship between theory and evidence. So, like, what is the probability of some event is likely to happen based on some evidence that's in front of you, or you should be looking at. At least that's my understanding. Somin and Julie can explain it more. They're more technical. And I like the way she explains this, the Bayes theorem, the way she starts out by giving this example of this Tom. This example of Tom. Is he likely to be a math PhD or a business student? And I like the way that example is very basic. Anybody can understand it. And then she tries this little joke, which I don't know if it worked well. That's another thing. Sometimes it's better to avoid jokes if you're not funny because it's a technical subject. And then she gives some more examples. And I like the way she uses these three things that she wants to bring across about the Bayesian thinking, she calls it. You know, remember your priors, the background information you need to have. Imagine if your theory is wrong and how your theory gets modified based on incremental evidence that you come across. So I think she does a good job without showing any math, because Bayes' theorem does have some probability and some formulas that you have to use. I think she does I thought a fairly good job. She uses three different examples to explain each of the point that she wants to make there. The only thing that I would point out that could have been done a little better is I wanted to see a little bit more passion about the Bayes, because Bayes is a very fundamental theorem, and some of the example I wish she had used was a little bit more controversial. It could be a little bit off the wall, but I think she wanted to play it straight, so she uses these examples. Like, I think you could take, and when you're giving your explanation, maybe you can come up with some explanation on how you could use Bayes' theorem. So I was just thinking, in America, we have in politics, you can always use Bayes' theorem, right? In America, we have a candidate named Donald Trump who is making this big issue about illegal immigration. Now, if it's on the news, we always tend to think that, my God, this is happening everywhere. But if you use the Bayes theorem, it gives you some rationality in saying, wait a second, is this what's really happening? Are all the immigrants, like majority of the immigrants that are coming here, committing crime, raping and bringing drugs? Like, what percentage of that is really happening? And when you look at something like a Bayes theorem, and you use Bayes theorem to understand it, you find out that it's not that significant, but news tends to make it significant. So my point is that I didn't think of it this way before, but now, having seen this video, I want to know more about this Bayes theorem and how I can apply it to my daily life, because a lot of times we tend to focus on things that are not that important. So when you're giving your explanation on the speech, maybe you can share with us, like, how do you plan to use Bayes' theorem in the daily life or in the news story, etc. Julie, do you want to go next? Oh no, Somin, why don't you go, since you're not muted?
Okay. Uh, Fine. I think I have shared about, I mean, my opinion about this lady's speech. It was, she had a good talking style. She has mostly posted very short videos, about 4 to 5 minutes. I have seen that in YouTube, they recommend less than 10 minutes as the duration for a talk. And still a large number of people try to do 2 to 4 minutes talks also. But 2 to 4 perhaps is too short a time to get across something very, take this to a deeper level. So she perhaps limits also to a very, very obvious example. But if you look at a problem like this base theorem related awareness creation, you need to create some kind of puzzle. So I thought there was the way I was introduced to base theorem was by posing a puzzle first and let people figure out, and we all had days a debate for a few days before we got into a logical expression of this by the professor. Okay, so this goes like this. It's called the Monty Hall problem. Have you heard of the Monty Hall problem?
I think so, yeah.
Heard of the Monty Hall problem? Yeah. Okay, this is something I heard in a course called Model Thinking. It's like this. It's apparently was a game show in US called Let's Make a Deal. There are 3 doors, and out of the 3 doors, behind one door there is a treasure, and behind the other 2 doors there is a goat. Goat is a symbolic sort of saying nothing of value. Okay, so the audience is asked to choose one of the, one person from the audience is invited to the stage and asked to choose one of the doors. The door that the audience has chosen is the right one, and there is a, the treasure is there, it is theirs. Okay. So, but then, after they have chosen one, the game show guy will go and open one of the other 2 doors. There are 2 other doors which are left. The game show guy will go and open that, and when he opens it, there will be a goat you can see. Okay. Now he makes an offer. Would you like to switch your bet now? Would you remain with the original choice, or would you like to switch? Normally, everybody will think that there was a probability of 1/3 of this treasure being there in one of the 3 doors, and that probability of 1/3 is going to remain, and you don't have any great reason to switch. But then the game, the theory says you must switch. How much do you agree with this kind of suggestion?
Well, I took that course, so I know the answer. So I cheated. You have to switch. You have to switch.
You have to switch. Okay, so it's not intuitive. Okay, so first to figure out something like this, and then have people debate and things, and then to come and explain that kind of a theorem would be perhaps a nice way of getting the point across. So that's what I said. You must make the topic interesting, and people should want to listen and talk. This lady's talk was very plain and simple that way. She did take a very simple example that is easy to understand. Didn't pose a puzzle, and perhaps in a 10-minute talk, or 4-minute talk, there is not so much time for you to let the audience, imagine, have a puzzle and break their head, etc. You can perhaps do it in a face-to-face speech, but not in a video speech. Obviously, you can't do that. Okay, so that's perhaps the problem. But anyway, the key point that she identified and narrated, that is, you have to consider prayers, is a very, very important point. The lack of understanding and appreciation of that leads to many apparent fallacies. There is one more similar fallacy also that is there. There are some 2 treatment methods for kidney stone, treatment A and treatment B. So now what happens is, if you look at which treatment has yielded more positive results, it is the treatment B which has yielded more positive results. You have as much as 83% for success rate for treatment B. Treatment A has had something like 78%. Okay, not very different, but treatment B definitely has got something like 7 or 8% higher success. So that is supposed to be significant in medical field. But then the paradox is, when you actually look at it after classifying the kind of treatments, the treatment A and B are applied to small stones and large stones. If you classify that way, and for small stones, what is the success rate, and what for the large stones, what is the success rate, you will find in both cases, small as well as large stones, treatment A is effective. But if you combine both of them, treatment B is more effective. So this is a puzzle. It will be very not non-intuitive to us if you say treatment A is the best one for both the small stones and large stones. But then when you aggregate that, treatment B is the better one. Okay, so this again is the question of the prayer. I think there are some Wikipedia articles on this. You can look for Simpson's paradox and Monty Hall paradox. Okay, so you can look up Wikipedia for these stories and it will be interesting. That's all I have to say.
Okay, good. Julie?
Yes, thank you. So today's theme was speaking about technical topics. And basically, whether you're looking at science or technology, like the big data, basically we have data or facts. And so how do you convert that fact to information? And that's what they're doing here. They're converting facts to information. And information becomes knowledge. And that's where we come to what we used for living our lives in action and in decision making. So last week we talked about epistemological hovering. So at the point when things become knowledge, it becomes integrated into us, and then we can live with it. So I think that Julia did a very excellent job at explaining abstract topic of Bayesian thinking, and it's basically as is looking at the numbers. It's actually a data game that she was playing, right? Because she used the area map to show different scales, and then the comparison, and then using that as a predictive theory. And I thought that she did a really, really good job, because I really did understand everything that she said in terms of how the numbers are different, and you need to go back and look at the base theory, the base set of data, the numerical game, and you can't just use a prejudice or personal experience. So she's using mathematics to overcome a prejudice, in a way you can say that, and to make decisions that's more informative. And I think she did that. And I think her three ideas of looking at the background, looking at the baseline data or information, coming up with counter hypotheses, and then using incremental evidence to maybe shift your knowledge set. So she's using this technology of mathematics and logic and statistics to help us to be more knowledgeable about things happening in our lives. And I thought it was very simple compared to, compared to the other two. It wasn't a stance, but I think she meant it more as a tutorial. And in that sense, she's speaking to perhaps like just one or two students even in her video. And in that sense, I think she wanted to keep it simple, and her goals were there. I don't know that there needs to be emotional excitement, because she was doing a rational study of the mathematics. But I agree with the perspective that perhaps she could use a few more examples to bring deep relevance into our own lives. And a controversy, if she used some racial prejudice data, or use some like Donald Trump's statistics or whatever, and show how Bayesian theory could affect that outcome or perspective or perception, I think that would have been a little bit more interesting and still tutorial and informative. But she was very organized.
Yeah, right. No, I think she was very effective in what she did there. She just wanted to get the Bayesian theorem explained to people. The way I understand Bayesian is to leave your emotions, check your emotions at the door, because we are driven by emotions, right? Like on the news and politics and everything. Emotions is what carries the day. When you look at whole marketing, marketing is not about Bayesian, okay? That like if marketing were using Bayesian, then they would never advertise because you would be telling people, you really don't need a car because you can walk, you can take a bicycle, car isn't something needed. But no, that's not Bayesian. They want you to buy something now. They want your emotions to basically take over rather than, hello? No. We just had a phone call. Somebody somebody tracked you down. How come you have power and we don't? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I was just thinking that that famous speech by Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he says the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. That's a pretty Bayesian phrase if you think about it, right? Because people at that time were scared, like, oh my God, war, we just got attacked. They were thinking like we're going to get attacked tomorrow. And I mean, nobody's ever said that that's Bayesian. I just thought of it, but in a way. Bayesian wants you to not get overtaken by your emotions. That look at all issues, when it can happen, when it cannot happen, and you'll find out that afterwards you'll make the right decision. So in a way, she doesn't use emotion, but I felt that if you really feel strongly about a particular theorem and how it can affect your life, a little emotion kind of is important because at the end we are human beings. We do get taken in by emotion. So any closing thoughts on this Bayesian? One thing I will tell you is that she used visual, and the question is, I think Julie said that it helped her understand it. The question is, do you feel that she needed the visual to explain this this complicated topic of Bayesian theorem? Saumyan, you want to any final thoughts?
Yeah, the diagram was definitely important, and I think that is the one which made the narrative to be very short. Otherwise, without that kind of diagram, it would have taken a long time to narrate the situation. Okay, so or to convey the logic, convey the intuition. I think wherever we can use some graphics to make the speech more understandable. It's very desirable to have a graphics. Otherwise, we can, if you don't have the facility, etc., we have no other go. But then, if the opportunity presents to present a nice graphics, we must try to put a graphics. I mean, a slideshow with PowerPoint text and all that is not as useful as a nice diagram is. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think that is very much true.
Julie, closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think the visuals are very important because we have eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and they all construct a different picture. So I think the visuals are really important. In fact, I miss being able to do visuals. I communicate a lot with diagrams and stuff. So maybe I'll get myself a little flip chart. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, Julie, thanks a lot. The only thing that I guess she probably didn't want to make the speech too complicated is that you got to make sure you got those probability right. Otherwise, the theorem is it's just an exercise in math. But you got to get those probability right. You can't just make them up. In that talk, she didn't really talk about that. Okay, at this point, we'll take a brief pause and we'll move to our second segment. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 18, segment number 2. In this segment, we're going to look at a TED Talk that was given by Kenneth Cukier on big data. Now, we all hear about this word big data, and what exactly is big data and why is it so important? I think Kenneth did an excellent job explaining this topic. This is a big topic, sorry to use the pun there, big topic, right? And he does really a lot of things well. One thing I have to tell you is this was a very well rehearsed speech. You can tell that he was very particular. He knew exactly what he was going to say. There wasn't a lot of ad-libbing in that speech at all. You could tell that he had practiced that speech probably hundreds of times because I didn't see anywhere that he went off script at all. And he did a fantastic job. You can tell when some speech is well rehearsed. It's just that the way person is speaking, and he was very particular on how he's speaking about this topic. I like the way he started the speech when he explains about the apple pie. You know, what is America's favorite pie? And the way he explained that, I thought was very effective. It captured your attention. Like, wait a second, it's apple, but when you reduce the size, when you have to make your own decision, when it's one, then it's apple suddenly moves to, like he said, apple is everybody's second choice. So when it's a larger pie, you get apple. But when it's a smaller piece, apple is not the popular one. It's like fourth or fifth. I thought that was an excellent way of explaining this topic, and he nailed it. The other thing that he does really well, and again, this is a very difficult topic. I felt after listening to him, I got a very good understanding of data, all aspect of data, why it's important, and the dark side of data, and some of the challenges that. And he also closed his speech in a very effective manner. This was a speech where he really presented the content in a very interesting manner. He's not a dynamic speaker that we're going to look at next, but the content ruled here. The way he explained the content and the logic behind it and deliberately laying his argument, I thought it was extremely well done. And I didn't even miss any of the emotions, hand gestures, and all that. He didn't need it because you can see the audience was very attentive what he was saying, and then the way he was presenting the topic on machine learning and some of the dark side of data at the end. On some of the negative side of it, you can get punished for prediction, how people's jobs can be affected, and I think one of the things that he did that was quite effective in this speech is how often he asks questions to the audience. I don't know if you noticed that or not. That's something we should take away. And this is something, Julie, that I was pointing out to you. This is a very complicated topic, and he does it in like 15 minutes. And throughout the speech, he's asking people the questions. So he's having this, as I like to think of it, as a choreographed conversation. The audience is not speaking, but he has rehearsed it so often that he's able to have that conversation with the audience without the audience ever really speaking. And the way he does that, I thought was excellent, and it's something that I highly recommend all of us do that when you're speaking, you are having that conversation. I felt like he was having conversation with his audience. So I'll shut up at this point, and I'll let Soumyan go next. And what do you thought of it, Soumyan, as far as his speech and his content and his delivery?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Well, I mean, I'll again reiterate whatever I had shared earlier, maybe in a brief manner. You see, this topic is something that we have heard many times. Big data is something we keep hearing about from many people. With all that, I think he did bring out some fresh examples and things like that. So to that extent, it's interesting. He had used, the routine, rhetoric, what most people put out. There would not be much enthusiasm for listening to that. He did bring up some fresh examples. At least I have not heard these things from others. Okay, so that's one point I should agree. Well, I mean, there is one thing I felt even today. He felt that already a lot of data is available and people are capable of using those data, etc. I don't think that we have really come to that kind of situation. When recently I did a course on process mining and I wanted to go and try it out on a couple of organizations, I offered some free analysis service, and people who took up that free analysis related thing had absolutely no data to offer. I said, see, look, if there is some data, with that available data, I will try to show and establish some utility for you, and then thereafter, if you are interested, we can take it forward. But then nobody really collected anything that was not wanted. Okay, they were not even collecting. Okay, so well, we all say that data is cheap and memory storage is cheap, etc. But still, it is just not done. At least that's the situation I faced in India. Okay, so maybe whenever this big data collection really happens, maybe somebody will put a lot more thought and want to collect some additional data as well. That kind of situation has not yet come about, at least in India, is my thinking. Privacy concerns, etc., will perhaps now increase, and people will refuse to let that data be collected. That is another dimension I was thinking will happen. See, what he talked about is our data being collected by all social sector organizations, cell phone company, and Facebook, and all these people are collecting our data. But then, as we start realizing that our data is being used, I think we will also climb up and say, look, I don't want to share any of this data. At least my two sons, they are very, very clear right from the days they were in college. They had managed their social network, etc., in such a way they'll go and take a ID whenever there is a new social network related organization. They'll go and take an ID and keep it dormant, block it. Okay, so they don't want their name to be used, and they don't participate in those forums at all with their personal and private information at all. If they want to share that, they do it only on telephone conversation and not through written text that can be put in a computer. And my elder son works for Yahoo, and he knows how a huge server and things like that, what all are the kind of data that can get access. And the younger boy is working for Amazon. He also knows how much of data of your e-commerce and things like that can be used by people. Both of them know how much exploitation of data can be done, and they're very, very wary, and they always advise me never share information on the public web. I keep doing it, but then I am always wary of what I am sharing. I never share anything as a private personal information. I just share something like whatever I'm sharing now, something that I anyway want to share with people. So that is the kind of thing. The second aspect, as Jay pointed out, is also very interesting. I think most of the TED Talks we have seen, even recently I saw some person from India, Coimbatore, who went and made a TED Talk, and what he was talking about is how he went about developing a sanitary napkin for women. He is a mechanic, garage mechanic, and he went and developed a sanitary napkin for ₹1 or something like that. That is the kind of a story. And even that guy was able to make a narrative with all his broken English, etc. He was able to make a narrative. That means there is somebody, some organization which is tutoring these people, helping them to structure their talk, helping them to rehearse all that. And in fact, when he started this speech talk, that is the kind of goal also we had. Latesh came around and said he wants his talk to be, reviewed and helped. I don't know whether we took it to the TED Talk kind of level. Yeah, we gave some feedback, but never went into polishing this speech, etc., to a greater extent. Okay, a few weeks back we saw this California gold rush related, video, and we discussed that. Well, that was too much into how that can become a drama and how it can almost lead to something like acting. We definitely don't want it to go to that stage. It should still be speech. It should still be limited gestures and things like that. We should not have to go and dig, go, all that kind of thing. We should not have to do. But on pausing and on short sentences and on all those kind of aspects, this is very, very beautifully choreographed. I fully agree with that. I think we should somehow, maybe Aruna is, after Latesh, Aruna is our one customer perhaps. Aruna, if you have any speech which you want to make in your office situation or anything like that, maybe we should discuss that, and we all would like to see how we can polish that and help you to make an excellent presentation. That would be a kind of a test case. We would like to work on that. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, Julie, one thing before I go to you. One thing I will say is that with this big data is question of sharing and not sharing. But here's something that people are going to have to realize, that in the future, I don't believe companies are going to hire people unless they can come up with a pretty good idea based on their social media trail on exactly who they're really hiring. That's going to be more accurate than getting reference checking, or even, here they do all sorts of FBI checking or anything. Your social media trail can pretty much tell you who you are based on how much you make that available. And I believe in the future, some companies will just not hire people if there is very little social media trail out there that can give them some kind of predictability on what kind of a person you are, what kind of work you have done. So I'm not sure these people who say, well, I'm not willing to share a lot of information. I just feel that, yeah, there are negative sides of it, but I'm not sure that people really have much choice as far as uh, how people feel. People are trusting that the social media trail is more accurate than when they don't see it. Anyway, that's just my thought on that. Julie, you want to give your thoughts on this talk? And what do you think of this whole big data topic?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Somian. And hi, Aruna. Um, yeah, big data is very exciting for me. It's just I've been looking at some of the websites that connects big data to art, and there is an art site, I think it's called like Chaos and Art. It really shows the interrelationship of art using big data kind of morph diagrams. Um, and I think he made a really good presentation because it is indeed a very abstract and challenging topic. But I think he connected to real life in the beginning, and then he connected to some human instincts at the end, because he started out with something apple pie, and this is very American, very homey. So he brought big data right down to where our lives and big data intersect. And then just in terms of connection, at the end, he said, this is, I want to find the quote so I can quote it. This is our timeless quest, to find knowledge. So he took it into everyday life, and he took it deep into a human instinct. So I think he connected the small picture, the big picture, to data. And I think his use of visuals sounds like his visuals were very interesting. It wasn't really moving for me, but he showed a clay tablet, and then he showed a hard drive, and he showed a thumb drive, showing the evolution of our capacity to contain and use data, and he used the idea of liquidity, shareability, and accessibility. And I thought those were really, really great. In terms of content, the only thing I would like to kind of change a bit is he said that big data will change and reduce employment for white-collar workers. And I think I've already done that. I've written major systems for underwriters, for billers, and these are like medium-level knowledge professionals. And in the 70s, 80s, there's a huge employment reduction because of the systems I developed. I know because the staff figures and the cost benefits included staff reduction. I think what the big data is really going to affect in terms of employment, it is going to diminish the number of knowledge workers, the experts out there. And I think he wasn't quite correct in that. I think we've already diminished the number of white-collar workers. And I think that's very, very significant because when you have a human expert, implicit in that we carry the human values. And then when you replace knowledge workers with computer systems, that human value does not overlay in the information that's provided. And that, I think that is the difference between data, information, and knowledge. And as big data is going not just into information, but it's moving us into the knowledge realm. However, I think that's a key point in the speech that I think he needed to make. I agree with everything he said in terms of the darkness of it, the dark side of data and the light side. It was a nice speech. It was a little bit pop, but it was really interesting. It was enthusiastic. And as a speech to the red lay audience, I think he really communicated his ideas across. And he also used emotions well, because I felt excited. And I thought his visuals were helpful, but could be more useful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very, very good, Julie. That was a good explanation. I like your perspective on this. Yeah, I think one of the things about big data is that it has to threaten people's jobs. And one thing that was somewhat scary, which you didn't consider under darkness, I guess, it had to do with when he was mentioning the cars, these driverless cars. Now, this is something, we drive, most of us drive, and we always think like, wow, there's no way a machine can ever do what we do. Like we have this arrogance that, we are so much better than anything else that machine can ever beat us at, even though we're seeing everywhere machines are beating us in things we thought we were good at, like even like playing chess and making even medicine too. Like if you ever talk to a doctor and if you ever tell them that, hey, your job can be threatened because there are computers out there that knows a lot more than you can ever know about a particular patient, and they'll attack you. Like, how dare you say that? I did that once and I regretted it, even in getting into that kind of a discussion with a doctor, because everybody thinks that they are better at what they do than anything else out there. There's nothing can ever take over what they do. But I'll tell you one thing that the machines are not going to be able to do is what we're doing on this show. You still need to communicate one-on-one with people. So if you're getting threatened by big data, just come on this show, because this is the only antidote to your success, antidote that exists out there with all this technology out there, that you still will have to communicate, you still will have to speak, and that machines are not going to be able to replace, because you can always tell when a machine is talking and when a human being is talking, because there's a lot of this emotional part. Machines just can't do it, but they can. Who knows? Maybe they'll come up with a way they can make a robot as dynamic and like make a robot act like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't know if that's possible, but you never know. With all this data out there, it's amazing how much they're able to do. And also, this also accelerates the speed. See, that's one thing people don't realize that things today are happening much faster. Yeah, we can learn a lot, but the machines are learning a lot faster than us, and we just are not going to be able to keep up. Anyway, any closing thoughts, Somin, before we move to the next speech?
Yeah, definitely there is a lot more of data, and everybody is exposed to a lot of analysis. Just about 2 days back, I was watching a TV show, where some expert commentators were answering questions, and one small kid was asking a very profound question. He was asking whether how a certain bowler would be able to attack a certain batsman. Well, in my younger days, when we watched cricket on TV, etc., I mean, we perhaps mostly listened to commentary, on radio. Then we got to, watch a TV replay. I mean, somewhere when I was in college. Till such time we didn't have access to a video at all. Now, kids are able to watch all that replay, which is done in slow motion, and some magic eye and all those kind of guys, infrared cameras. All sort of gizmos. So with that, the way they are able to understand the game and the nuances, etc., is far, far different from what we are able to do. Yes, all this analysis will lead to a greater amount of insight, and that will also be available to people to use in their judgment. Still, they will make a judgment call ultimately, but they will be much more educated when they are making a judgment call. Okay, fine, that's it.
Julie, any closing thoughts before we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, I just want to point out a content issue again is he talked about the artificial intelligence in the checkers game. That was really not a big data issue. That was an AI issue. And I think it's a very close to related technology issue. But I think when he did that, that was that could confuse the audience what the really big data issue is.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know
I
if
want to
you I used to follow AI very closely when I used to work in the tech sector. And one of the things about AI, and I don't know if you remember about object oriented was another big thing. You know, object oriented. Every year it's supposed to be next year is going to be the year for object oriented.
Design and development, yeah.
Yeah, object oriented. And the same thing with AI. And if you notice it, that word AI is not used that much anymore. And what happened was that within AI, there are all these subfields that have taken over. And one thing that I remember reading one time is that AI used to be very dependent on algorithms. And what they found was, I think Google found this, that algorithms, you didn't need algorithms to get accuracy. You needed data to get accuracy. So like, for example, a lot of the stuff that Google does, that's why Google collects lots of data. Like Google Translate, I think that had to, remember like voice, what is that called when you try to understand it? Language translation, right? That's what it was. That language translation, they used to try to come up with the best algorithm to do language translation. And then what Google found was that you needed lots of data to do language translation, and that's what they've done. That's why when you go to Google Translate, it's pretty good. I always use that. One time I was talking to somebody, and I just took everything in English and it translated into French. It was like somebody, I don't know if it was real or not. I think sometimes you have these phony people, they're trying to talk to you, but somehow the person was talking to me in French, so I said, I'm going to really impress this person. So I took all these sentences in English and I would translate it and then cut and paste it and send it back, and the person got intimidated thinking that I was some kind of a French scholar, but all I had was Google Translate. So with Google Translate, we can all be scholars in all these different languages now. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say one thing here. Well, all this analysis is fine, but then ultimately there is an algorithm, and that algorithm has to be right. If the algorithm is not right, it can lead to no great advancement. Well, you talked of Google Translate. I was about to say the same thing before you were to mention that. In Wikipedia, there are something like 270 languages in which Wikipedia is available. Okay, in English they have some 4.5 million articles. So one bright idea somebody had in Wikipedia was, let's use automated translation. Somebody in Google had this idea. Let us use Wikipedia, the 4.5 million articles in English, and let us get it translated to all the other languages and publish it. And let all these guys in the, who are interested in the language Wikipedia, let them come and edit and correct it. So then our algorithm will learn from this correction. See, their idea is a machine translation will happen and humans will correct that machine translation. Then the machine will understand what is the right version and how it can correct it itself. I think they were too far off. The machine translation as they made originally was really bad. And when humans corrected it, they made so much of change that the machine could not make sense of it, because when the human is correcting it, he is more interested in presenting a nice article and not just correcting the the mistakes the computer made. He is not trying to stick to the original translation of the computer. Okay, he is trying to totally restructure the whole thing and write it. And again, local idioms and local ways of expression, all that are very different from language to language. So the whole thing went very badly off. And in most of the Indian languages, we got it stopped within about 6 months of time. We had to ask Google to retract all of them. Otherwise, Google was left and right. For them, Wikipedia is a huge resource for doing the translation project. They were offering it for free. It was a social work. And well, when you look at Wikipedia for the volunteers, it became a big headache. Because if you have some out of 100 articles, if you got 10 articles which have got a lot of errors, people will tolerate it. If you have original 100 articles curated by men, I mean people, and then you have 1,000 articles coming in from machine translation which are all bad, then the proportion of bad articles is going to increase. We are going back to the Bayes theorem. Okay. Fine, that's it.
So I see how you compare, how you weave that together. So maybe you can somehow weave the next one together with some kind of gravity here too. Let's see. All right, so we're going to take a brief pause and move to the third segment. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 18, segment number 3. In this segment, we're going to look at we took a look at a small clip from Neil DeGrasse Tyson. He's giving a speech at some, I believe it was at some museum, American Museum of Natural History. And there was a woman who asks him a question about, who is the one person that he admires? I'm not sure if that's how she asked it. Anyway, the person that he really respects and admires is Isaac Newton. Okay. Now that's a pretty simple answer, right? But not according to Neil DeGrasse Tyson. He takes this Isaac Newton and he makes Isaac Newton so exciting that afterwards you want to see a movie about Isaac Newton. That's how good he explains what Isaac Newton has done. And if you didn't know anything about what Isaac Newton had done before, after you watch that clip, you realize that this guy, Isaac Newton, was simply amazing. And that is the genius of Neil deGrasse Tyson and how he brings this person to life. Now, Isaac Newton's been dead for so many years, maybe hundreds of years, but then Neil deGrasse explains it in such a way on gravity and how he came up with this idea, like sitting and seeing the apple and connecting to the moon, and then he explains it that everything is falling, right? And then he gives this example about the cannonball, and the way he explains it, it's just amazing. This is, I consider, if there's a gold standard on how do you explain a technical topic, you want to direct people to this particular video. And I'll tell you 3 things that he does so well. It's the way he uses his body. Remember, this is not a prepared speech, okay? This is something where he's answering a question, so he cannot prepare it. Everything he's giving is almost based on his knowledge. He has to kind of do it in real time, make this exciting. And he does it pretty much flawlessly. So he does 3 things that I think are just amazing here. One is the way he moves his body. He's not on a stage. He's directly next to the audience, right? So he's like right there, and he uses his body. He's moving all over the place. Then the way he also is moving his voice. His voice is not monotonous. He's really into it. Like, I'm just going to make you Isaac Newton so likable that you're going to leave this place thinking that Isaac Newton was one of the greatest person that ever lived, ever lived. And then, of course, the way the content is also the way he tells the stories with the cannonball, then elevator, then dropping this tall glass of water, and the way he said it just cuts off, the way he just says cuts off. I mean, he's just there's so much in this little 10-minute talk that he's giving on this Isaac Newton. And at the end, the effect is that it's a movement, right? That he's moving, his voice is showing a lot of movement, his content is moving, and people are sitting. But what he's trying to get them to do is he's moving their thinking. He's getting them to think. And this is a movement speech. And this is what a great speakers do. They really move people to either understand a topic or take some action. And in order to do that, because human beings don't like to change, and he's making them really take this guy, Isaac Newton, and really understand what he really stood for. And he gives all sorts of reasons. He talks about the laws of motion, the laws of optics, and then for fun, he created the integral calculus and differential calculus. And in 10 minutes, you end up want to know more about Isaac Newton. You really appreciate what this person has done. And he said, he did it at the age of, before he was even 26. And then at the end he says that I even have a bust of Isaac Newton in his office. So I thought that he explains this topic really extremely well, that everybody could come back after this. I understand what Isaac Newton's all about and what he accomplished. and the way he does it, I think, is absolutely perfect. I don't think I've seen anybody explain a technical topic better than what he does in that 10 minutes. Soumyan, any comments?
That was interesting, Jay. Well, I mean, perhaps I will start with a small reiteration of whatever I had mentioned, because we have Aruna now who's joined. Okay, so this clip was actually from one of the videos shown in the class. Okay, we can say that the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and when he finishes that answer, during the 10-minute clip, after giving that answer on Isaac Newton, he asks from the audience whether they would like to have long answers for fewer questions or short answers for many more questions, because time was passing by. The audience said that they want these kind of long answers for fewer questions. Is okay with that. Okay, so that was very interesting for me in the sense, they're listening to a scientist, and then perhaps there is a large audience, and they all may have hundreds of questions. So maybe there are many people who will have curiosity about listening to more and more about scientific facts. Okay, whereas the people there voted for the narrative and the style and the pleasure of listening to such a talk. That is the way I see it. When they say, "Look, we would like to have this long answers for fewer questions," so that is something which I was amazed with. Okay, so that is one point. Then, the entire place, I think it was called some kind of a cafe. The title of that thing said some discussion cafe or whatever. I don't know. It ended with the word cafe. So it was actually a lot of coffee tables, circular tables where there people are around that, and this guy was walking through that. I thought that kind of intimacy, getting intimate with the people. See, if you stand on the stage and talk, perhaps you will never be able to get that kind of proximity and closeness. So getting into the middle of your group of audience and talking to them, moving around, and getting close to most of the people, and using that microphone in his hand, and talking about whatever he wants to say was a great style. I thought that is a wonderful style, which is worth emulating. Another is, I feel that this guy is a very, very highly well-read person, and he also has a elephant time memory. Okay, and if anybody asks a question, I don't think he is having to prepare or anything like that. He knows the story. He has read enough books about that, so he's able to answer that. Okay, so that's one part of it. And he all that he talks about as far as the science, etc., is highly rational, highly logical, etc. So in the content, he cannot make up anything at all. He's not talking of any art subject. Everything he talks about is science most of the time. Okay, and he still brings in a lot of emotion. All that emotion is brought in to add to drama, to add to the passion, add to the narrative, add to the enthusiasm the audience has got for this speech. So that's where he puts all the emotional stuff. Okay, so he very clearly differentiates where he puts the rationality, where he puts the irrational but emotional stuff, etc. And he does a very nice job of infecting everybody with that kind of enthusiasm. I think in my childhood I have watched a TV show, Carl Sagan's Cosmos. It was one wonderful show, and that guy again is quite a master in narrating things which are science related. And after Carl Sagan, the guy I have been impressed with most was this Neil DeGrasse Tyson. Okay, so that's the aspect of it. Then one of the things I felt was, well, he chose Isaac Newton. And he gave an example. I mean, he narrated about Isaac Newton to justify why he chose Isaac Newton. Well, I mean, all these guys, the early days, they were all polyglots. Okay, the word is polyglot, G-L-O-T, glot. Okay, so in the sense, they didn't deal with science, physics, chemistry, maths, etc. the way we look at it. All these kind of divisions and classifications have come later. In their days, all this was on huge natural science, natural philosophy. Okay, so the philosophy of how the universe works. Okay, so that's the way it is. So, most of them have been polyglots. One of the interesting things I did was when I was about to prepare a series of talks on statistics, etc. I was going back to history and thinking of the statisticians about whom I would like to talk. I read about Carl, Pearson, then Ronald Fisher, and so many other guys. when you hear when you read the story of all these people, it's so interesting. I think half of this comes from the way the historians have written history about these guys also. Okay, so definitely all that Neil deGrasse Tyson has learned about Isaac Newton has come from books, and some historian has written a good narrative, and this guy is able to also reproduce that narrative and perhaps adds his own charm to the whole thing. But I think historians have played a great role in in writing books about these guys, and they have brought it home nicely. And I also found the stories about the scientists I wanted to speak about. There is enough material to talk, give a wonderful tribute the way he was giving. Then the other thing that people say is, if you can, you should go and take the original book these guys have written and read that. So we hear of Newton. We read about Newton's law in modern books. We should go and read about Newton's law in the book written by Newton himself. That is interesting. So I did this exercise. I read a few books from some of the people, the original authors. Google Books has got many of these things, and in between some pages will be, they won't be showing. That's okay, but you can still read it. And one of the statisticians I wanted to read about was the one who brought quality systems to Japan. Okay, Deming. So I went and read Deming's original book. I mean, all the modern authors were, repeating the similar thing of what Deming has said, etc. They perhaps have added a lot more of conciseness, etc. to it. But then, when the original author writes about the topic, he goes about elaborating that in a very, detailed manner. It's almost like discovering that. See, today we take it for granted, so the textbook, treats all the logic and things right within one small paragraph. Whereas when he wrote originally, he had to nearly spend half of his book just describing the whole thing, because it is not a known concept. He is trying to introduce a concept. So, reading the original book written by these scientists, etc., would be another interesting experience. This is another thing I want to share. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just a quick thing before I turn it over to Julie is that the only thing I'll point out to what you just said, Somin, is that reading these original books, I do go back and read them, but only if it's annotated, because there is so much context that you're just not familiar with. And I just give you an example. I went and read something by Aristotle recently. It's not even a big book. It's just like a small Poetics. And I got lost reading that, because there's so much there that is not related to today, that unless if I get an annotated version, it isn't going to make sense. So yeah, I agree with you. You got to go back and read these older books, but they mention a lot of stuff that you just wouldn't know. And if you don't know it, it becomes very frustrating to read some of these old books, that you need somebody who has some professor or something who has annotated it, so that way all these references you can easily understand. Julie, do you have any thoughts on Neil deGrasse Tyson's talk?
Yes.
I just, excuse me, I would like to add one more point to what I said. Sorry for the interruption. See, some of these authors, they actually started doing a study or research or whatever it is for some kind of objective which you will not respect so much today. But then that is how the thing started. For example, those who developed the theory on statistics, etc., they were actually trying to help gamblers to win gambling games. That is where the starting point was. Today, if you say somebody's profession is to help gamblers win, okay, you will perhaps, in a social context, you will perhaps not value them, not respect them. Whereas, some of these guys have actually contributed in that way, but then later the life has picked up from whatever they said and built it into a proper science. Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, go ahead. We kept you waiting too long, so you get.
No, not at all. Thank you. That was such an interesting discussion. I really appreciate everybody's input. So, yeah, man, absolutely wonderful speech. Completely, as Jay says, it's really an amazing speech in explaining the technical difficulties. And excellent, extreme high marks on rationality, information transformation, and emotionality, conveying enthusiasm. And one of the things that really came out to me was how much he packed into that 10 minutes. He taught, and he made it understandable, you know. I mean, science to me was always, I was actually in the, in high school, the accelerated math and science curriculum track, but I never had the enthusiasm that he did. And his whole explanation of the gravity and the cannon being able to falling, you know, I had this vision of falling and then seeing it being orbit and come back into the point of where the force was generated. I think that was just like magical, you know, and all the information he shared about what Newton did. And then also that he was only 26. I think he used, I think the question that I would want to answer in about a minute is, how did he make this topic so exciting? I think a lot of it was in the gesture motion, but also he connected to our daily lives, right? Like in the gravity, he used the example of go buy a Starbucks tall cup, and he says it costs you about $8 and you can do this experiment. Or that just tied my life into this, what was arcane into not arcane. The same thing when he talks about the second law of dynamics, when he talks about force is equal to mass times acceleration. He gave such good examples that I cannot but feel it, and it's from my everyday life. And even the spectrum, he says he gave it a name, Roy G. Biff. Well, now I'll remember the spectrums really, really easily. So I think one of the things he did that make it help me become enthusiastic is he made these concepts relevant to my life right now. And I think he took abstract scientific theory, he gave me examples that are something I can actually go out and check it out. And so I think that's one thing perhaps I can use in my speech as well, as to take some ideas, but to put it into everyday life as something that I can relate to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll go back to, I think we got like about a couple of minutes left. So I'll go back to what I had started in my 3-minute talk, right? I said, I mean, I just came up with this. Maybe there should be one more here. That, you know, the speech has to be portable, scalable, compatible, and deliverable, right? Portable here would be that this speech would sound the same if he was talking to you one-on-one or if he's talking to 100 or even 1,000 people. You know, that's no portable. I mean, anyone, anytime, anywhere. Sorry. And scalable is the one I was saying. This would speech sound the same whether he's talking to one person, 10, or 100, or even 1,000. Compatible is just what you just said. He's using current example where he sees a camera and he just says, I can drop the camera. Luckily he didn't, but then he talks about the Starbucks cup. So he's making this very compatible with the audience. He's not giving some arcane example. And at the end, it is a deliverable speech. This is a speech that has an objective. He wants people to really appreciate the importance of this figure, Isaac Newton. And afterwards, people probably have a real deep appreciation of this man's accomplishment. Soumyan, any closing thoughts? We got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, fine. I mean, I have nothing more to add. That's a nice collection of 3 subjects. One thing I want to tell Aruna is, well, Aruna, this is the way we go about our usual speech talk live sessions. All of us keep discussing. See, what happens is in this process we do talking in a conversational mode, you know, and that is if the same kind of fluency and the same kind of spirit, if we carry to a public talk situation, that will be nice. But what we are trying to do actually is a conversation, not really a speech. But then in speech, we want to do the conversation style, and I think this kind of thing fits. And we welcome you to keep coming and listening as long as you want to feel comfortable and then participate talking. No issue, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I mean, I like to always say that there is no such thing as public speaking. There's only good speaking, no speaking, and bad speaking. So I'm coining that, okay? So if you ever quote that, I need that attribution. You got to give that attribution to me, that there is no such thing as public speaking. Aruna, any closing thoughts? Because we should give you the last word here. What did you think of this? Give us a review of our show. What do you think? Good, bad, real ugly, or what?
No, that's very generous of you to allow me to do this. A review it's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience to just connect with the people from all over. That's one thing. And to connect one-on-one in a daily conversational mode is very difficult. And to have interesting topics is it's wonderful to have them. We have a base on which we can converse. I think that's like benchmarking, so that's nice. And I know that, this is my diet test. I know where I will go. Maybe a few weeks or 2 days down the line, I'll be much better. So that's a wonderful opportunity. Thanks for letting me into Speech Talk Live.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining. And like Somin said, you're welcome to join anytime. And hopefully, we'll leave it up to you on how comfortable you feel. Like I said, that nobody gets any award or anything. Sometimes you have to speak. It may not be perfect, but that's how you get started. So don't worry about whether you're coming across, whether you're stuttering or anything like that. That's not an issue. This is the place you practice. Okay. Julie, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you, and welcome, Aruna, and great to see you guys. Thank you.
Okay, then we're done. Everybody, thanks a lot, and hopefully see you next week. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.
That's a wrap.